Hey everybody, Jason Burmis here, and as we reported when it happened, the Virgin Islands government and law enforcement is suing the estate of Jeffrey Epstein, and the big headline was that they said that this trafficking was occurring all the way through 2018 and that girls as young as 11 were involved. However, you know what I like to do? I like to read the documents. I like to do the deep dives. And this one was 49 pages long. I'd been promising it for a while, but we never go in cold unless we say we do. And here's the thing. First of all, that's kind of a misreport. They allege a girl as young as 12 and then specifically a girl as young as 13 as well, or between 13 and 16. And then a girl that looks as young as 11. But as always, we have the documents, so what we're going to do is we're actually going to read them on air, bullet point by bullet point, and let you decide what you think. Because it's actually a very telling document how this enterprise worked, and how Jeffrey Epstein set up shell companies to do this, how people were involved, how they are calling it the enterprise, how a co-conspirator, aka pilot, is named several times. There's not a ton that's brand new, other than the fact that you realize that a law enforcement agency literally felt helpless against this man because of his money, wealth, and power. And so before we actually hit this story, and we talk about the trafficking and the bullet points, and we go point through the whole document, and thumbs this up, subscribe and share. If you're new, now's the time to do that. I also want to point in that the fix is in. I kept telling you this. Bill Barr and the DOJ are the cover-up crew. And the warden who was in charge of Jeffrey Epstein, guess what? Quietly given a really nice job at a club fed. Remember, they're going to clean up the corruption. They're going to fix the system. Jeffrey Epstein was the second person in 14 years to kill himself in MCC. What? Huh? Are you kidding me? Doesn't sound like it was really a broken system. And the first time he told his brother he didn't try to kill himself and that he was attacked by his cellmate. But that's for another time. That's for another time. Go be a warden at the club fed, sir. Not behind a desk. What we're going to do is we are going to hit this document up. We're going to go point by point, page by page. So here you go. You can see right here where the court system is. And it's the government of the United States, Virgin Islands, versus the estate of Jeffrey Epstein. So first of all, I want to talk about these shell companies that we're going to go over that are going to be named in this. And they are Poplar Inc., Great St. Jim Great St. Jim LLC, Natalis Inc., Plan D LLC, and Hyperion Air LLC. So those are just the ones that are named. Later on, there are actually some more shell companies that are named in this document. And this is how he acquired Greater St. James Island as well, because they weren't going to sell it to him. Basically, he set up these shell companies, and somewhere along the way, he's on the board or he's the sole proprietor, and these things are set up in such a manner that they are pretty much at his sole discretion. So let's skip to page 3. We do it live here. Thumbs the video up. All right. So, by the way, all of his assets, they start to be shown here, like what everything is worth. I thought that was pretty interesting. They talk about the estate and $577 million. They break down $56 million in cold hard cash, by the way. Okay, so you can see that a lot of this is right here and sort of accounted for. We want to go to number 15 here, okay? So Epstein maintained a deliberately complex web of Virgin Island corporations, just like I talked about right there. Limited liability companies, foundations, and other entities, not all of which are yet known to the government of the Virgin Islands, though which he carried out and concealed his criminal conduct. Now, we just named several. Now, in this document, filed, I believe, a little bit over a week ago, they're admitting they still don't know what all this guy's shell companies were. Now, I recently listened to a interview with Steve Hoffenberg, all right, and he did it with Ed Opperman, and he talked about how brilliant Jeffrey Epstein was with numbers. And I think that's a real thing. I don't think that was his cover. I think he was very good with numbers and more than likely good at laundering money for these people as well. Why else would they do business with him aside from the perks of the girls? Think about it. And knowing like arms dealers. Steve Hoffenberg talks about how he was like a very good friend of Adnan Khashoggi in that period of time. Not Epstein and Khashoggi, although it seems they did have a peripheral relationship, as Vicky Ward has said, right? But that Hoffenberg and Khashoggi were great friends. Skeeter Boy says, thanks for helping expose the bad guys and supporting the truth. Thank you for the super chat, Skeeter. We will take super chats while we do this deep dive. By the way, 4 p.m., we got Dan Dix of Press for Truth at the top of the hour, so excited for that as well. We may even cut this into 2 broadcasts. I'm not sure. We'll see how far we get in the next 20 minutes. So, we want to read 18, okay? Epstein sat at the hub of this web, serving as president, member, manager, or director of each of these entities, and, upon information and belief, directing their activities. Okay? Now, Nutellus Inc. is a corporation established and organized under the laws of the Virgin Islands. 2011 was when it was incorporated. Here they are. These are the spots. So if you keep looking at this and how he was able to do this stuff, a parcel of 3.1 million square feet valued at 3.2 million with buildings and improvements valued at 4 million. 4 million. That's the deeds of the Virgin Island records. So that's what they were keeping, a parcel of land at Little St. James. All right, they own that. And then, Epstein was the president and director of Natalis. Okay, that's what he was there for. So let's keep going down here. What's next? We want 24. Let's see. So again, thus, Nutellus Inc. participated in carrying out, facilitating, and concealing Epstein's crimes. Of course they did. And hence, Little St. James became an instrumental use of those crimes. Of course. All right, so let's jump to page 7. And which one are we going to? 32. All right. Upon information and belief, Plan D, LLC, now this is another one of those LLCs I was talking about, owns one or more of the airplanes and helicopters that Epstein used to transport young women and children to and from the Virgin Islands to carry out the criminal pattern of activity described below. Okay? Flight logs and travel notices indicate that Epstein used his plane to traffic and transport the young women and underage girls to the Virgin Islands. Okay? Very important. Now, 33, Hyperion Air is even more important because they talk about Larry Visacki, basically his pilot, and another member of Hyperion Air, okay, who still has holding assets in this. And if he's the pilot, obviously he's a co-conspirator that knows a lot more than some of the other people. All right, you get it? And then let's read 35, okay? So this is some of that more information that we're waiting on. John and Jane Does represent individuals and entities whose identities or involvement with the Epstein are currently unknown. The government of the Virgin Islands will amend this complaint to add these individuals and entities when discovered. Remember, we got those 10,000 pages to go over. There's a lot of sealed depositions in there. Just pointing that out. And that's just one of the civil cases. Remember, they sealed all the sweetheart deal documents because they said there wasn't a scintilla of evidence that Epstein was treated improperly. Okay, if you say so. All right, so I like this. Factual allegations. And thumbs this up, guys. Thumbs it up for everybody. Factual allegations. Are we ready? Epstein and his associates, including defendants, identified and recruited female victims, including children, and transported them to the Virgin Islands, where they were abused and injured. Epstein, through and in association with defendants, trafficked, raped, sexually assaulted, and helped captive underage girls and young women at his properties in the Virgin Islands. Epstein created a network of companies and individuals who participated in and conspired with him in a pattern of criminal activity related to sex trafficking, forced labor, sexual assault, child abuse, and sexual servitude of these young women and children. Again, those names that have been out there. Leslie Groff, Sarah Kalin, Nadia Marcinkova. All right, obviously, Ghislaine Maxwell. There's a name I always miss, too, that Hoffenberg used, but I encourage people to check that interview out as well. Okay? Epstein and his associates trafficked underage girls to the Virgin Island, held them captive, and sexually abused them, causing them grave physical and mental emotional injury. To accomplish his illegal ends, Epstein formed an association in the fact with multiple defendants and others, both companies and individuals, who were willing to participate in, facilitate, and conceal Epstein's criminal activity in exchange for Epstein's bestowal of financial and other benefits, including sexual services and forced labor from victims. This illicit association of Epstein, defendants, and his associates constitutes what is referred to herein as the Epstein Enterprise. That's why I keep calling it the Epstein Enterprise, the Enterprise. Thumbs this video up, everybody. Epstein's associates in the Epstein Enterprise, including but not limited to those named as defendants, knowingly facilitated, participated in, and concealed Epstein's illegal conduct. Epstein used his wealth and power to create the Epstein Enterprise, which engaged in a pattern of criminal activity in the Virgin Islands by repeatedly procuring and subjecting underage girls and young women to unlawful sexual conduct, sex trafficking, and forced labor. And let's jump over to number 43 here. Again, flight logs and other sources, so more than just the flight logs, obviously, established that between 2001 and 2019, so they actually go all the way through 2019, not just 2018. Wow. The Epstein Enterprise transported underage girls and young women to the Virgin Islands, who were then taken via helicopter or private vessel to Little St. James, where they were then deceptively subjected to sexual servitude, forced to engage in sexual acts, and coerced into commercial sexual activity and forced labor. Now, number 45, also important. This is where they exploited numerous girls between the ages of 12 and 17. Now, remember, the media was reporting 11, and that is later in the document, but it says looked as young as 11. Here we have confirmation of a 12-year-old. So we always correct our mistakes here. That's why we read the documents, because we want real information. That's what this is about. All right? Let's see. So now let's jump to page 10, 48, and 51. There's over 200 counts in this, by the way, guys. So let's go to page 10 and 48. Here we go. As recent as 2018, air traffic controllers and other airport personnel reported seeing Epstein leave his plane with young girls, some of whom appeared to be between the age of 11 and 18 years. So there it is. This is basically the eyewitness testimony of those air traffic controllers and other people who worked at the airport. Now, props to my man Titus Frost, because he had been reporting this for a while. Now, later on, they address why they weren't able to do anything about this. Because remember, this is the government suing Epstein. That's how much power he had. All right, page 11. Let's go there to number 54. A 15-year-old victim, and this has been discussed before, was forced into sexual acts with Epstein and others and then attempted to escape by swimming off the Little St. James Island. Epstein and others organized a search party that located her and kept her captive by, among other things, confiscating her passport. And we've talked about that passport confiscation, the girl that woke up and she was off the island freaking out. A lot of crazy stuff. And this is in that suit. So let's go to, what's the next count? Count 60. Consistent with his creation and use of a complex web of entities to carry out and conceal the criminal trafficking enterprise in the Virgin Islands, the Epstein Enterprise sometimes paid young women and underage girls he exploited and trafficked through his charitable foundations. That's important. So again, you have these shell companies that are doing all this property business and doing business with his planes and his helicopters and transportation. But then you have these charitable foundations that they're using as front groups to pay for their trafficking of underage girls. It's right there. It's right there in the suit. All right, let's continue on. Let's go to number 72. Thumbs this video up. Subscribe if you're new. This is what we do. We do the documents. You can read them. You can find them yourself. I like to think that we highlight a lot here, but I'm always up for other people's viewpoints. And believe me, I can't catch everything. The Epstein enterprise was able to hide the trafficking ring from law enforcement, despite the fact that Epstein was a registered sex offender. Given the isolation of Little St. James and the Great St. James, and the nature of the crimes and the victims targeted by Epstein's enterprise, the activities of Epstein's enterprise were not readily detectable. Moreover, Epstein's great wealth and power likely made witnesses reluctant to report their observations to the local law enforcement. Now, I'd go a step further. It's almost a whitewash. Local law enforcement knew too, but they knew about his power. There were people within. See, I feel like the corruption within that government, within law enforcement there, also needs to be addressed. I'm glad the good people are actually making this suit, but that's a bit of a whitewash, wouldn't you say? So let's go to count 78 and 79. They're next. Okay. At his last verification, because he had to verify as a sexual offender in this area, in July 2018, Epstein refused to permit Virgin Islands Department of Justice investigators, assisted by United States Marshals, to enter Little St. James beyond its dock, claiming the dock was his front door. Instead, Epstein arranged to be met at his offices on St. Thomas. So basically, he still was muscling police when they were trying to check up on him for being a sex offender. That's what that means. All right? And I think this is more of the same. This is where he basically obfuscated his real travel plans. This guy was, of course, deceptive, doing what he wanted. Epstein also misled the government regarding his travel plans. On March 19, 2019, the Virgin Islands was notified that Epstein would be traveling to France for 10 days on the private plane owned by Plan D LLC. His notification form did not disclose travel to any other countries. It was later discovered by law enforcement authorities that Epstein also traveled to Vienna and Monaco during that trip. Probably other places too. Just throwing that out there. Just throwing that out there. All right, let's skip to 83, 84, and 85. So, again, Epstein's pilot, Larry Vysotsky, is identified as a member or co-member in companies that served and maintained the planes that the Epstein enterprise used to traffic young women and children. Freedom Air Petroleum LLC and JEGE LLC. So like I said, there are even more of these companies. And remember, as many of these companies as we're going to go over, they're claiming in the suit that there's even more companies that they haven't identified yet. That should be alarming to people as well. All right, so let's continue on to 84 and 85. Other Epstein entities included LSJ Employees LLC, Southern Financial LLC, and LSJ Emergency LLC. Okay? So again, we got more and more of these. Okay? You also have Financial Informants, Inc., also known as Southern Trust Company, Inc., and Financial Trust Company, Inc., involved in this. All right? So again, shell company after shell company after shell company to fund, carry out, and conceal his identity and pattern of criminal conduct. You get it? So let's continue on where they say that the estate continues to engage in this conduct, aiming to conceal the criminal activities of the Epstein enterprise. Okay, so it's still going on. 100%. All right? All this. Take a look. All right? That's what they're trying to do. Its act is to conceal the criminal activities of the Epstein enterprise and shield its participants from liability and accountability for the injury they caused to the victims, and much more. They want to shield those co-conspirators and you know, those that partook, period. And notes that 2 days before his death, Epstein amended the trust and his last will and testament upon information and belief he did so as part of a pattern and ongoing effort to conceal and shield his assets from potential recovery by the claimants. Again, shield and conceal. That $500 million number, that was a bullshit number. Even the judge didn't believe it. in New York. Thumbs up, sub, and share, guys. We're rolling through this right now. Let's get to count 94. Count 94. Specifically, Plan D LLC knowingly and intentionally facilitated the trafficking scheme by flying underage girls and young women into the Virgin Islands to be delivered into sexual servitude. Plan D LLC repeatedly made flights from the mainland to St. Thomas with Epstein and underage girls and young women for the purpose of engaging in sexual activity on Little St. James. On some occasions, they would transport Epstein and female children by helicopter to Little St. James. On other occasions, Epstein and the young women and girls would be transported by boat. All right, 97. Let's get. After Epstein's suicide, the Epstein enterprise continued to exist as each of the participants continued to conspire to prevent detection of the breadth and scope of the enterprise's criminal wrongdoing and to prevent accountability. These conspiratorial acts are ongoing. So to this day, the Ghislaine Maxwell networks, the Epstein network is still operating. Did you read that? Are you okay? Is it there? Yeah, it's right in your face. Right in your face. So let's continue on to 130. See, a lot of this gets repeated again and again and again because there's so many counts on this. So 130. Let's go here. On the pretext of providing modeling opportunities, careers, and contracts, defendants facilitated the transporting or recruiting of young women and girls or lured and recruited young women and underage girls to travel to the Virgin Islands where they engaged in sexual acts with Epstein and others. And by the way, that's repeated later. I think that's very important because a lot of people say, oh, this wasn't a trafficking ring. It was just Epstein. Come on. In some instances, young women and underage girls were given scholarships, again through the foundation, money, gifts, or other items of value in exchange for engaging in sexual acts with Epstein and others. And others. And others. Okay, let's go to 138. Let's hammer it home a little more. On the pretext of providing modeling opportunities, careers, and contracts, defendants facilitated and transported or recruiting, that's how the recruiting pyramid scheme worked, of young women and girls, or lured and recruited young women and underage girls to travel to Virgin Islands where they engaged in sexual acts with Epstein and others. In some instances, young women and underage girls were given scholarships, money, gifts, or other items of value in exchange for engaging in these acts with others. I just want to keep hammering home. There's other people involved, okay? Involved. So let's jump all the way to 205. Thumbs this video up, guys. We're almost done through this document. Subscribe and share. We do the deep dives here. Let's see. Count 205. Like I said, there's a lot of repetition in this document, as you can see. Here we go. So these are the two or more occasions with the 13 to 16-year-old girl. And I just think it's important to hammer this home that there's a specific instance in this one that you can point to. The Epstein enterprise engaged in two or more occasions of conduct that constitutes criminal predicate acts as defined by CICO, including but not limited to using or facilitating the use of force or coercion to accomplish sexual contact or engaging in sexual contact with a minor between the ages of 13 and 16. Okay? So that is there as well. Let's jump to 233 and 234. Let's see what we got. All right. Now, this one's a little long-winded, but I think it's important. Each defendant engaged in acts that revealed its intent to join and participate in the criminal conspiracy by engaging in or facilitating the persuasion, inducement, enticement, or coercion of young women and children to travel to the Virgin Islands, to engage in prostitution and or sexual activity and or attempted to do the same, keeping, maintaining, and or permitting Epstein's property at Little St. James to be used for the purpose of prostitution, lewdness, or assignation with knowledge or reasonable knowledge to know the same. Okay? So this basically says they should have known. Defendants knew or should reasonably have known that some of these individuals that were subject to these actions were minors. Again, hammering it home. So let's go to the last ones, 248 through 250. Okay. Wrapping it up here, guys. Okay, these are the important ones. At the time of these transfers, Epstein had numerous actions pending against him related to his trafficking and sexual assault seeking financial judgments. Through these transfers, Epstein and Epstein Enterprise fraudulently removed property and effects beyond the jurisdiction of the probate court. In other words, they hid stuff. We watched them hide stuff. Rusty Shackelford's video showed them hiding stuff. Epstein and the Epstein Enterprise were part to the fraudulent conveyance of the property, real or personal, and or the interest of rights arising out of the property, contracts, or conveyances of Epstein and the Epstein Enterprise. So guys, that's pretty much, do I have any more on here? Nope, that's pretty much the meat and potatoes of this document. Make sure you're thumbing this video up, subscribed, and sharing. We are doing it 3 to 7 times a day on this channel. 3 to 7 times a day. You can just come over here, star this. Just go visit, star it. Don't worry about the notifications because they're probably not going to get them no matter what. I want to remind everybody I'm a documentary filmmaker. They're all here in the documentaries playlist. Shade the Motion Picture, Invisible Empire, A New World Order Defined, Fabled Enemies, and Loose Change Final Cut, all right there, folks. You can also follow me on Twitter where you need to retweet my pinned tweet. If you don't know what it's about, go check it out. Just go watch that video. Go read this thread. You don't even watch the video. Just read the thread. Be a nice little surprise for you about another sexual predator that likes to violently rape women. You might know who he is. I don't know. But you might want to check it out. I don't know. And then, if you appreciate what I do, I couldn't do it without you. We're really low this month. We got 6 more days. I got to hit at least $2,000 to do this. And guys, I've been talking about this office thing. That may be coming to fruition a little bit sooner than I thought, but in order to do so, I've still got to make a living. So $5, $10, $15, it means the world to me. This is an issue, again, that goes beyond that false left-right paradigm that we expose all the time on this program. I absolutely love you guys, and I will see you all on the flip side.